Hi, everyone. Welcome to my presentation on voluntary regulation and date label standardization. So let's begin with a little bit of background. The United States, on average, throws away around a third of its food supply every single year. In Washington state alone, in 2015, over 1 million tons of food waste ended up in landfills. The graphic I've embedded here shows which counties contributed the most organic waste to landfills in 2017. Now, this is problematic for a variety of reasons, but most obviously, the decomposition of food waste creates methane and carbon dioxide emissions that drive global warming, something we want to avoid. So, one of the ways that we can reduce food waste, at least on a consumer level, is to remove the confusion with date labels, or what we as a society have incorrectly dubbed as expiration dates. Since there's currently no federal regulation tackling this issue, two trade associations, namely the Food Manufacturing Institute and Consumer Brands Association, came together to create a voluntary initiative, essentially compacting the over 50 different types of date labels in use nationwide into two convenient and easy to understand date labels, those being best if user freeze by to indicate quality and user freeze by to indicate safety. They then encouraged their members or kind of affiliated brands to incorporate this updated language into the packaging of their products. So this led me to ask the question, are voluntary initiatives a strong means of adequately implementing standardized date labels? For my internship, I worked with Zero Waste Washington, a nonprofit focused on waste reduction through policy, to lead a grocery survey of over 2,000 items over the course of like a four-month period. This mostly took place at our local Safeway, but also was conducted at other Safeways, Targets, Whole Foods, Lucky's, you name it, I was probably there. The goal of this project was to determine how many member companies were actually complying with this updated standard for date labels. I then compiled this information into a two-page fact sheet for my organization, seen here. From there, I wanted to figure out whether membership impacted the outcome of compliance. And to do so, I chose three variables that I thought were likely influencing whether a product was compliant or not. And I held those constant to test the actual relationship that I was looking for, that being the effect of membership on compliance. The three variables that I chose were the size of the company based on the number of employees, the location of the headquarters of said companies, and the type of product. And these two pictures here show exactly what my grocery surveying looked like. And luckily, in this instance, as you can see in the red circle, this product was indeed compliant. So, what I found, firstly, with the research I did under my internship, was that only around 21% of tested member brands were fully compliant, meaning that all of the products I'd analyzed through the grocery survey of theirs were or had updated their language to reflect one of the two date labels put forward by the voluntary initiative. So already membership was not looking too promising. In terms of the makeup of products that I collected information on, both member and non-member, that is, most of them ended up being from smaller companies, which tended to reflect more non-compliance than compliance. And this exemplifies why it was important to hold variables like the size of the company as fixed, because there's clearly some sort of or the potential for some sort of relationship here that would impact compliance outside of membership. And we see kind of the same thing with, or in regards to the headquarters of the companies producing these products, and that a lot of the products came out of Illinois and California. And if we think about, state regulations that might exist for date labels in these two states, we again see another potential influence on compliance that exists outside of membership. So with that said, I found with those three variables held constant that membership did have a very slight positive effect on compliance, but it was null, meaning that it was statistically insignificant. In terms of the three variables that I tested, only the type of product showed membership as affecting compliance, and that was only taking place in the categories of beverages and fresh produce. So what does this mean? Clearly, current voluntary measures are not strong enough to encourage their companies to take on these standardized date labels, meaning that food waste is going to continue to accumulate in the consumer level of things. This is unfortunate because voluntary measures offer a lot of benefits, but these can only be realized if we can, or if companies can more effectively be incentivized to comply with these standards, right? And so for future research, we should really look into which of these variables, maybe some of the ones I've mentioned today, are impacting compliance and how those can be used to strengthen the effect of membership on compliance. Also, on an individual level, I highly implore you to do some research on what these different date labels mean and maybe prevent yourself from throwing away some perfectly healthy food. So, on that note, I would like to thank my site supervisor, my faculty advisor, my lovely community that I have made through this experience, and my other friends and family for supporting me through this process. And with that, thank you all for listening.